We're going to start with a very simplistic view of how the budgets are formulated. So everybody knows that Congress is comprised of two chambers, right? The House and the Senate. Now within the Senate and the House, we have multiple committees and subcommittees. Can everybody see this okay? And committees and subcommittees on both sides. Now some of the most important committees are the Budget Committee and the Appropriations Committee, okay? And there's one on either side. Now the job of the Budget and the Appropriations Committee is to fund government agencies. Keep the lights on, keep things running, allow us to buy new things. And so what they do is they create these things called appropriations bills, and there are 12 of them. And the 12 appropriations bills fund government agencies for the year. Now, once those appropriations bills get out of committee, they go back to their respective chambers for a full House or a full Senate vote. The Senate's going to create their appropriations package. The House is going to create their appropriations package. Now, naturally, there are going to be some differences between how the House creates their package and how the Senate creates their package. So they work out the kinks and then send that package up to the President's desk. Hopefully, by October 1st, the President has signed that appropriations package, and then we have a full budget. Now, once the President signs it and we have the budget, the money gets allocated to the Treasury and then appropriated to the agencies. And this is when you can access it. So this is part of that system of checks and balances that are in place. It starts with the divisions of government, and then it goes to different people involved in the budget planning process and different people controlling the flow of the dollars. Okay? Now, if this is the best case scenario, there are multiple other scenarios that are sort of inferior that we've been dealing with over the last few years. But does anybody know the last time this process happened as it was intended? 2008. Hasn't happened since 2008. So since then, we've been dealing with inferior versions of a budget. So if a full budget, the way it's intended, is the best case scenario, what's the worst case scenario? Government shutdown. That's what I heard. Perfect. And this is something that we, of course, experienced in 2013. A shutdown. So what a shutdown means is that Congress couldn't agree on 12 appropriations bills to fund the agencies, or they did agree on an appropriations package, but the President didn't like it and vetoed it. Okay? So lights get turned off, federal employees get sent home, contractors get furloughed, nothing happens until Congress can agree on some form of an appropriation. Okay? Now what happened last time we had a shutdown is Congress said, all right, we need to turn the lights back on. So what David referenced earlier this morning was those our two favorite words that are most common these days is a CR, continuing resolution. So Congress said, okay, we need to turn the lights back on. We're not going to give you real appropriations. All we're going to do is refer back to last year's spending levels to allow the government to at least operate. Now under a CR, we're not allowed to start new programs. We don't technically have new appropriation levels. So it's an extremely frustrating time, and I think everybody in here that's experienced a CR can agree, we don't like it. Contracting officers and program offices, they act very hesitantly to obligate any funds because at the end of the day, they don't know how much money they're going to have at the end of the year to spend. So we can all agree that a CR is not the best case scenario. Now, one scenario that sort of fits between a CR and a budget is something called an omnibus. And an omnibus is kind of like a budget. It's not the same. It's kind of like a budget in that it does give us new appropriation levels, but these 12 appropriations bills that form a full budget, they consolidate them into one. Good news about an appropriations bill, and by the way, we were under an omnibus last year at the end of FY15. The good news about an omnibus, again, is it does give us new funding levels. It does allow for new program starts. The bad news is that with the consolidation of those appropriations bills, we lose a lot of direction from Congress. Each of these appropriations bills are 2,000 pages long. Okay? So multiply that by 12, and we have 24,000 pages of text. Why does Congress write 24,000 pages of text to fund agencies? Partially because they love to hear themselves talk. But also, they're trying to justify why the agencies deserve that money. I think we still have some more seats back here, folks, if you want to filter in. I'm so happy with this turnout, by the way. Last year I had a room about this size. I think we have 160 chairs. Last year we had about 140. And as I was prepping, I was really nervous because I thought maybe 10 or 15 people would show up, and we ended up being standing room only. So I'm thrilled to see that there's still so much interest in this topic. But where was I? We were talking about the omnibus bill. So the 24,000 pages of text tells government agencies how they need to be justifying their purchases. It gives them direction on what they need to be doing, what they need to be buying. Now, when we consolidate those 12 appropriations bills into one, we lose the granularity from that 24,000 pages of text because we only get 1,000 pages of text. I say only 1,000. I've read them, and they're still very lengthy, but it just lacks the clarity. So program managers still don't know, am I obligating funds right? Am I writing the right justification to obligate these funds? So that's why it's not the best case scenario, but in our lifetime, in the last several years, it is the best case scenario because Omnibus is the only way we're getting a budget.